as to the nature of the intermediate state and so forth.
מהו האופן שבו יורדים לתוך המצב הזה וכולי. אז הפרטים האלה נמצאים בטקסטים של האבידרמה. אז כמו שאמרנו, יש את האבידרמה, שני סוגים של אבידרמה, יש את האבידרמה הנמוכה שנקראת אבידרמה קושה, יש את האבידרמה הגבוהה שנקראת אבידרמה סמוצ'איה. עכשיו, מאחר ושני הטקסטים האלה מדברים או מלמדים את הברדו, ויש ביניהם הבדלים, אז רימפוצ'ה הולך גם לעמוד על ההבדלים בין שני הטקסטים האלה, ומעבר לזה גם הולך לדבר על המושגים השונים של הברדו שנמצאים במסורת הטנטרה, במסורת המנטרה הסודית. לאסולה.
Oh yeah. And totaling to the go yore.
Yore rinpoche la ine peshe dirin de chudun niba de las nana.
Ore in
La peshe shurla peshe nana tigmendo.
Re in the Trinda Sanyi Chudu Nini Yubenangi and Chudu Jamatelia. Kamjong inare, Chudu Chaga inare, or Tindeji, and totaling to the Chanas.
So we will have a question and an answer at the end of the second session for both days. So maybe we could allocate maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes for question and answer.
Oh, that Nania, then the government Doti Corte, Gomulu Dindeji, shitting on Dindesumudua. Kanchi Munche Pame Kubala, Chine, Padan Demba, Namzeva, Gao Sunting, Ponde Deje Shins, that Mitteria, G. Pame Java, Chadan Timuki, Rabe Shawan to Sondeva, or Tindeji Himba Inayang, Tubasangi Jumden Degi, in Chutulea, Juba Inas, and Yang Tabashin Juba Ina. And Mitzimelia, and Betty Chadang Yomungu Atuzo, Shivadi, Parashani, and Yomungi, Sabent Java, Pa Jumbe, Dajum Dubung to Chetuaji, Yedeva, or Tea of the Betson Shire, Chashadu, Kanshi Winche, Pame Kurwala, Chine, Padan Demba, Namzeva, Gaos, and the Jungos. Doja Shindu Chava, Jungos, Sonjings, than the Angulimal Silva, or the Korang Sentavati, I'm Saga Sidwa, or Shidejin Sumudua, or those Jenny, that Sometua, Shadan Jen, Sometua, and Timu Jen, Tongdance, and or the Tisumuti, and Yomu Tusum, Rabe Shama, the Yobatabujita. Novo Yavatachi, Tindimbare, and Yomo to some Chavares Lavena, Yomo to some Nores Laguya Imbada, or Chavares Lavia May Sare, or Carres and Gangalo Sibatamavare, Kandar Sedilia, Dajumajubu, want to Ching Shadare, Kokazam Yine, Sedil Dajumajubu, want to Chingimba, Gajatam Nede Shadare, Sibatama Shadare, or Tindechi, that Yinaya. Nyomo no asinamidu or cheva mainaya nyomo no rachi or tindechigi the chajen jungo shedanjen sometua timujen tongdance or disumbuti and goes on the tunde dejeshins and settle judgment jut choto the petinashins or that tina shebe or tinane and jungo gola and the jungos telia jungs sugarati and tishisha to be the Kumche and Druyaza, Kumche Shambachil Druyavinza, the Yapchi Yumji de Inamena, the Kumche Shambachil Druyavinza, and the Yumji de Pijamare. Tinde Indu, Yum Giman Hansil said Tishu Mato Yamare, or Tus Chene, and Yumji de Marete, and Kumche Chung Druyaza, Jungos, or Tustaba Imre.
Nagarjuna, in his letter to a friend, he said that even if one was even in the earlier part of one's life, if you have led your life carelessly, having gone under the influence or the control of coarse afflictions such as anger, attachment, and ignorance. But if you were to enter correctly into the Buddha Dharma, it is possible that in the later part of your life, you will be able to pacify the coarse afflictions, and in fact, you can even achieve the state of the full destroyer. You become an arhat after having abandoned the afflictions and its seeds. And Nagarjuna said, for example, you look at the Buddhist lifetime, there was a Nanda who was a relative of the Buddha. So Nanda was not the younger brother of Buddha, because the Buddha's mother only had one son, and that is Buddha himself. So Nanda was a relative of the Buddha. He was younger than the Buddha, and he was said to have been very attached. Then there is Angulimala, who had a lot of issues with his anger and hatred. And then you have another person by the name of Tongden, or meaningful to behold. He was said to be someone who was particularly afflicted by bewilderment or ignorance. So Nagarjuna said that even if you have led your early part of your life carelessly, but it is possible for you to become an arhat, just like Nanda, Angulimala, and Tongden. Yeah? So it is said that all three of them achieved arhatship and became a full destroyer in their very lifetime. Having said that, it is also said that these three persons were destined to achieve liberation in their very lifetime. That very lifetime was their very last in cyclic existence. So from the moment they were born into that life, it was kind of destined, so to speak, that they were definitely going to achieve liberation.
מהווים דוגמה לכך שאנחנו יכולים בעצמנו לעשות את ההתמרה הזאת, גם אם אנחנו בחיים האלה נוהגים בצורה שהיא לא מצפונית, בדיוק כמו ננדה וכולי, אנחנו יכולים להפחית את העוצמה של מצבי התודעה האחרים. עכשיו, ננדה היה אחד הקרובים של הבודה, הוא לא היה האח מקרבה ראשונה, אבל רימפוצ'ה אומר שהייתה לו איזושהי קרבה משפחתית מסוימת לבודה שקימוני. בכל מקרה, ננדה, אנגולימולה וטומדן הם אלה שהצליחו בחייהם האחרונים לעשות את התמורה הגדולה הזאת, את ההתמרה הגדולה הזאת, ולהגשים את מצב האהת. אז גם אנחנו נוכל לעשות את זה. לעשות.
던데디 제가의 슈요 중국의 슈요래 배직 내선은 지래 대답이 아니 그 제가우스 센터고야 근데 하장 그 구수 제고요 봐 답변은 디시시 왔다 보들어야 센서 무슨 주자니 아니 배제서 뭐 기주 어떤데기 센상의 연대 셀 조베 파바 있습니다 하장 세고요 봐다 하장 용수 조베인데 아니 쿨리교비 잡을래자 아니 개발도 집에 제초여야 봐 어떤데 지기다 디신식을 든데지 개조여야 돼 버지래도 센서 무슨 주자니다 안 배제서 뭐 예주대 아니 쿨리교비 잡으세요 다 디신식은 이게 개발라 아니 셀 조베 파바 있어 어떤데 개조용 것도 다 단데 중국어도 버지래 차샤나 센서 무슨 주자니 나네 아니 니티 상금에서 또 다른 뭐 지인도 커버래 엔 조부티 지인도 커버래 어 됐다고 내려 주부지 신나면 더 지어봐 어 디니인데 다 상대 매인 거래 디마도 지기 아니 디시시보다 더 지기 아니 다 용수 줘봐는데 이미 어다 세버한데 이미 어디마도 지기 생선 무슨 주 여대행이 하장 듣고 순제고 여배 인자 제 가고 싶에 다녀야 터버지 대점도 마세베 구제텔이야 랍도 마중어체 어 도스체제 다 김규 순바이나 또 콜레기비 야부스니 지기 어떤데기 개부터 또 체인지 차투야기 누버지야 예대버지기 어떤데지 예대버지 다 디신시베 안 텐다와 중가워 제가워테 다 지 세텔이야 랍도 중네 다좀 주봉도 지기 여바테 네바첸도 다 디신시베 다 마켄바 용게 말을 켄신도 아니 제 가오기 아니 김상아야 지규나제 아니 소뇽을 지규나 어떤데 나와인 바래
So Nanda, his name in Tibetan is Gao. So if you add Chung Gao, if you add Chung to the word Gao, that would mean basically that he was a relative of Buddha Shakyamuni. But Nanda was also called Ze Gao in Tibetan. Ze here means very physically attractive or beautiful or handsome. So Nanda was said to be very physically attractive, very handsome. So as you know, the Buddha possessed the 32 signs and the 80 exemplifications. And those signs and exemplifications were complete and were very radiant and clear. It is said that the wheel-turning kings or the Chakravartins also possess these 32 signs and 80 exemplifications, but you were to compare their signs and exemplifications with those of the Buddha. So it is said that the Buddha's signs and exemplifications were way more superior to those of the wheel-turning king. So having said that, coming back to Nanda, so Nanda was physically a very attractive, very good-looking person. So it is said that he also possessed these signs and exemplifications, except for two. So Nanda probably did not have the crown protrusion.
במקום 32 סימנים עיקריים, היו לו 30.
Have the treasure hair that is kind of situated, mid-brow. So, and it is said that if Nanda,
ראיית הכל, אז הוא
a monk, he would have become a very powerful king. So there is an account of the Buddha visiting his home one day for alms.
יש לו את הפוטנציאל להפוך להיות כמו בודה, כמו תתגתה. אז הבודה ראה את זה, הבודה ידע את זה, והוא עשה את פעמיו לביתו של ננדה, במסווה של מישהו שבא לא לקבץ נדבות, אלא בא עם הקערה של הנזירים, לקבל אוכל או כבוד מהבית של ננדה. לעשות.
난다와 산스크리트계리아 코란chen 난다스 안엔다 멤버chen 난다 and 난다체 난다 코란 지다 달 랑수 달파베 카둘라 아니 코란라 다치 도 운더가사기 또 부메 초도 상지야 김북술렌제 어 코란이 사상제제 어 딘데체니 다 김상 참투 지지리야 재심 첨부 어 센다니고 어 딘데지 여대베 카둘라 and 디시시부 체도 년네 and 소뇽려야 난데 강발이야 치규나제 and 소뇽셰네 and Sonyongi, Tishinshi, Lusenalia, Kampugu, Sonyongi, Lusenalia, Yanje, and Tishinshi, Chala, Pudu, and Tishinshi, Chag, Masheva Nanje, and Tishinshi, Tagar Zulakan, Chigunanje, and Zulakan, Chigunabe, Katulaya, and Tishinshi, what a Yamdolia, and Yablone, and Tishinshi, Choyag, Lunsegi, Nali. South Donga Korangi Kampushabati, the Lusenalia, Jansha Yobati, Ya Lave Kije, and Tusten, Tishibe, the New Zulaka, or Pejere, or New Zulaka. New Zulaka Iman, Repejere, Yaman from Jesaja Mendra, than at this Tobasaso. What Debatu, and that Geraya Jajuki, and Zulakania, and Tishibe, Sudanlia Kerne. And from Seti, Ya Pubacalia, that can I rub the tuna up your rest, Jeje, and Dusjacana. And Tishinshi Galia, Kakorangi, Lang Doba, the Zainine, Manuche, not Chigiman said, rub the Chunguman said, Lam Matuche. Yinaya, Semgidine, rub the Chungu Tessa Medavati, Tana Kulu give Yabuching Everton, Dr. Kulu give Yabuching Everton. 제구의 말하는 김답지야 여였삼배 세심지야 여대버지기 김기 현자지야 여대버지기 어떤데지기 더네 아니 디시베 체도 년네 아니 우주ገብ제 아니 도스체네 따라도 중지 다샤 아니 중국 둘로가 어떠스나 이거래
So Ananda, in his prime of youth, he got and he married this princess. I don't know the name yeah. So anyway, he married this girl, and so this couple lived harmoniously. They were very close to one another, and they were mutually very attracted to one another. So as I mentioned earlier on, one day the Buddha went to Nanda's home for alms. So Nanda then took out all kinds of things, and he filled the Buddha's alms bowl to the brim and then offered it to Buddha. But Buddha did not physically accept the offering, but rather he stood up and he began to leave the house. So Nanda then followed the Buddha while holding the alms bowl. So and after a while, they arrived back at the temple. And I think that the temple is in Sravasti, so I'm not exactly sure, but I think maybe Buddha then was living in Sravasti. So the Buddha entered the temple, and then he and sat down. Then Nanda offered the alms bowl that was filled with food to the Buddha. And then at that time, the Buddha said to Nanda, "It would be good if you became a monk." So Nanda found it very difficult to say no to the Buddha, although from the bottom of his heart he had no interest in becoming a monk whatsoever, because he really wanted to be a very powerful king. But at the Buddha's insistence.
Rabdu Chune, and Tishibe Karan numbers, that can Tishibe, the Zulakan, and Tzankan, or Tuzolia, and K Chaviata, and Tindegi, and that Sosa Dijanchiati, Kechmures, Kananje, and Tzankangi, that Duangi, K Chayata, Tindegi, Lerati, Nandal Naimbare, Chungol Naimre, and Tishibatan. And Kor Ginduna Batso, any Nimeku Sonyum, those Chigunambe Kabla, and Jungo Tandananda, and Zula Kanda, China to the cage of Tutus Chaguya Imbre. Or till Lengendi and Kurunai Vocabulary, Korangi Samnenala, that the Hinshi was the Ginduna but Samalo and Chilo Sonyola person, Tanga Jogo, and Zula County, Zamajise, Chilog, Chinani, the Zamajise, and Marana Lord or somebody, Korangi Samnenala, Yimbre. And Jogo K. Jabje teacher vocabulary, Tishinshi, Zutru, Chundru, Toki, Shanne K. Jabje Zama Server Cover. Nugiti Chomujotelia, Tabaji Yang, the Laksuchi Chunje, Ya, Single Lamadan, Tindegia, Lujo in the Kamakansanchi, Kinichi, Hadigieva. Ya, Numojote, K. Javakala, Ya, Sharumojotelia, Taksuchi Tone, Ya, K. Pegitama Sersana Yantanda, Kinichi Langueva. What in the Hindu, Quid Kin Tayaro, the Zan Majun Imbre, and Quid the Tayaro, Zan Majun Gabia, that K. Tanare, Matarnare. Tangadus Chodo Russia was some cheje, and Mito Namdu Yama Pepsa Shunglamtine, that Chimbaina, and Tishin Shiva in two paper Kadu that Gaduja Nyanga Yore, Tinde Indu Tanga Salan Chodo Chimba and Chodo Chimba Kabaya, Tishin Shiba, Tagara, the Makama Mumaro. Chetu Yen, Salamne, and Suchijunanje, and Suchijuna Kadutella, and Salamne pay the Jay, Shindonchi or Yibimber. Negi Shin Sengi, the Shingang Lomagan dosma, Yeding you would want those check, Lomagama putting it to Tindechi Ote, Ko Yibimber. And the Shinship at Zundru Togi, Shingle Lomatia dosia, the Tete Chavimber. And the child, Taco Yves, there's a Kakema Jojen, and Tishibe, Karam Padre, Tandaram, Gombal Pad, Raja Lore, Yamdo Shosunje, and Yamdopa, Uzunjoje, China Bimbre.
So this insistent, Nanda shaved his head, put on the robes, and took on the vows of the monk. And then the Buddha gave him a job. The Buddha told him to keep the temple premises clean, in order for him to accumulate merit and to purify his mind of obscurations. So one day, the Buddha and the Sangha community left the temple on their arms round. So, and since Nanda had the responsibility of cleaning the premises, so he thought to himself, so now that the Buddha and the Sangha have gone out for alms, I will quickly, I will finish my job quickly, then I shall go home. So, but of course, the Buddha knew what Nanda was going to do, isn't it? So whenever Nanda had finished cleaning a particular section of the temple, and when he proceeded to clean another section of the temple, the Buddha, through his miraculous power, would cause a strong wind to blow. And through such, then all kinds of rubbish like the leaves on the trees and so forth would again fill up those sections of the temple that he had cleaned early on, isn't it? So, and this happened again and again. And so Nanda thought to himself, at the rate I'm going, I will never be able to finish cleaning the temple. So anyway, I'm not going to do this anymore. I have to go home. I'm going to go home now. And Nanda thought to himself, if I were to go home via the usual route, the chances of me bumping into the Buddha is quite high. So I shall take a different route. So he had this secret path, so to speak. But of course, the Buddha knew what he was up to, isn't it? So when Nanda went home via this secret path, he bumped in the Buddha. isn't it? Right. So no, he saw the Buddha from afar, so he decided to hide. So in India, there's this kind of tree called the sorrowless tree. Oh, usually the leaves of the trees are arranged in such a way that they're kind of drooping down, isn't it? So he thought he could hide, amongst the leaves of that tree, But as the Buddha walked past, all the leaves began to elevate, so to speak, lifted up, and thus exposing Nanda. So then Nanda had no choice then but to follow the Buddha back to the temple.
אז הוא חשב לעצמו שאם הוא ייקח מחסה תחת העץ הזה ויסתתר בין העלים, אז הבודה לא יראה אותו. הבודה יקרב לעץ הזה, באמצעות הכוחות שלו, הוא גרם לעלים האלה להתרומם ולפנות כלפי מעלה, אז כמובן שננדה נחשף בערוותו. הבודה תפס את ננדה ואמר לו, תחזור למנזר. לחזור.
Tene Zula Kang ya Yangyo Party Bananje and Jungo Party Banane and that Charangarani ne Lumbashanda Tagados, the Karang H. Duje and Mani, that Lumbashanda Tagados Sumje. And Jigding come the Mulling Taro Gina Kandena, Jigding come Shanda Gina, what in Dejilia, Chibananje. The Alengelane. Ji soja dam de yosachil tinasha soja dam de yosachil tije biu what in the yosachil tibananje and biu mo and me yaji medenye mi shara mi yaji medenye what in the mi yaji shara what in the ji lia zuzo nanje tishibe biu di subject kandeji to us tamuta tamorwa or biu mo di subject kandeji to us and Tida in the Karangita Chuma Pundarga and Sujini Druina Kagi Sanduas, Kanina Imbre and Jungaobi, Titi Namda Sana Shingi, Kabardu, Nye, and the Chuma de Hajang Zevuji Yoris, Shiva Imbre. Oh, yes, Tishibe, Tilia, Tireda Mares, Tame Meche, Yatinde Tine, and Tishiba, Gi Yangyo, Tine, the Chugul Jujuje. Lenel China Imbre, Lenelia Chibananje, and that cannot do a chamjam rosh sunje, and Lenelia chamjam chinje, and the issue past the Nanduyanda Jolnyabashaji Shui Giva, and Jungo, and Kasnanda, and to see Patu Leneg, the Kasakalia Chimbekalia, that Shindu Yido, how you put up a mombo, and Gita. So Gavetsalia and those credible and Korang Tong. Cho Shensilia, Hypomamuchi, and Gia, Kapsanji, Hypomu Kapsanji, the Gia Tong. And the Kansa and Hypozani made of those Kandena, Samje, and Gogi, Package Chiva Kabli, Ya Tandan Zabulina, ya, and Tishi was Shaggy to be Tunia, and Jungo singing and that rubbed chune and that lava lucky yoris, Tosam Gonsola, lucky yore, the Yawoji chumbaina, and Yawachimati, and Hai Tony, and Lumbadilia, Geje, and the Manzotanyando deagi, or Tindegi, that Manzu Ribuchi years, or those lava imare. And those chegita, Hai Tronje Tetati, Netsuto, Chikorang Demo Chambo Chung. That Monsar Chambuche, but ye trop, or those chene, and Tishiba Gundula Java Kalia, that you Karaka Tonsons, and Yash, Kandiname Kalia, and Taginizu to the Chazan Shu, Shibe Katute, and Tishibe, and all Hai Pumutu Zotan, and the Karang Chumapunda Reganidi, Druina, condition to us, Zelo condition to us, young condition, but young condition number Kalia. Did it Namda Sanashi and in a chuma the Kakere Mindus, she were.
אז יום אחד הבודה אמר לננדה, אנחנו יוצאים למסע, אנחנו הולכים לבדוק.
So Nanda followed Buddha back to the temple, and the Buddha told Nanda, "Come, hold on to my ropes. I will bring you. Let's go to another place. Let's go visiting." So Rinpoche said he thinks it could be become an isolated place in this world, or it could be another world system. But but nevertheless, they arrived at this place where there was a blind female monkey. So the Buddha pointed to this blind female monkey and asked Nanda, "So how does your wife compare to this blind female monkey? Who is more attractive? Who is more beautiful?" And Nanda said, "There is no comparison. There's no question. The difference is like the earth and the sky. Of course, my wife is so much more attractive or pretty than this monkey, isn't it?" So, and then the Buddha said, "Now hold on to my ropes. Let's go to another place." So the Buddha then brought Nanda to a god realm. And after having arrived in the god realm, the Buddha told Nanda to walk around, to take a look, So while the Buddha sat in meditation, so Nanda then proceeded to walk around to take a look, and he saw, many beautiful goddesses. Some were kind of like hanging around, having fun in the gardens, but some were like congregating, or like assembling amongst themselves at other places. So, but he found it strange that all he saw was goddesses. He was wondering, where are the gods and why are there no males around? So he decided to ask, some of the goddesses that he saw in that realm, and one of the goddesses replied, "Oh, now there is a practitioner, a monk by the name of Nanda, who is Buddha's disciple. So if he does well in his practice, and if things turn out well for him, then he will be able to take rebirth in our midst, and then we will have fun together." So this was what the goddess told Nanda. So anyway, then he then went back to the Buddha, and then of course the Buddha asked Nanda, "Hey, so what did you see?" And Nanda reported to the Buddha all that he saw and all that he heard from the goddesses. So and then the Buddha asked Nanda, "So now, if you were to compare your wife with the goddesses that you just saw, so who is more attractive? Who is more pretty?" And Nanda said, "Of course, my wife is nothing compared to these goddesses."
수중소나 턱규여 버지다 통제 코랑 응스 통네 다 이능에 수중 야버지 소네 겨와치만 할루 야버지 랭고가 삼버지기 아 삼노 틴데지기 다 조미유 틴데지를 샤네 아니 다 간다 기부 중은 삼노 시지르바다 기부 중은 삼노데 간데지레슬라베이나 몬돌 하다 미 콤파 토베야티 두자티체 아니 지 녜송기 다지 동해 되게 참말로 다 미팅초 각자티체 녜송순데 껴왔디 랜데게 랑돌 수신들 났네 녜송을 껴왔디 까네 아니 모두 하다미 고마토야디 기부충 짬식이 아니 지금 냠랭이 좀 봤다 딘데지로 봤다 기부 중 짬을 미루자 딘데지로 봐 내가 좀 먼저 써야 들어와 왔다 딘데지 코랑기 다 3년 날에 레다 기부 중은 지금 람길 베긴 로탕 3년 서로 코랑 레제 되네 공기다 수준도 쉬고 보다 보다 숨고요래 오베나를 쉬고요래 수준도 숨자시 의다 숨고요래 아니 디신시베기 다 밀리 타바 두야기 네디 다 콜 상금인도 고네 야 디신시베 탐게기 탐 람지때 돈달라 녀를 여베 배지 녀를 여베 결혼 현다 도저 창말로야 다 다네 순데 아니 난다 제가올라 아니 캐난소 계장냠도 마샤스 칼라냠도 마사스 코다냠도 마데아스 레바 마제아스 두스제 숨바임바레 디송용베 깔리야 아니 결혼도 참아티 다 디시시베 까 지송 체제 아니 제가오 난다 가와 질 연구위원회야 아니 남사 잡아도 디치티네 작득할야 란제 저 신달 누구요래 아니 계좌이 시기요 말에 내가 짠 지기요 말에 그렇지고 하기요래 다 꾸가오티 그런 페이지 쪼쪼 두고 이기래 딘데지 인도 다 분위기 숨도와 다 코나잘 찍치는데 디딩 알게 제신도 가고래 삼아로 지게 이네 꾸가오잘 잡에 깔리냐 꾸가오 람상 코나티 꾸가오티리아 레바다가 꾸가오 착득할이야 샨데 까메 마송제 초신달라 파 죄백이 열에 아니 15세 반복 충분해 다 결혼 현다 도스 날 레바 마제나이 마제스 예포 에네 공가오게 양알이야 엔 계자셔로 지금인도 냠도대로 지금인도 레바준이 지금인도 딘데스 껴알았어 아니 예마치 우투네 다 그냥 예 쪼쪼로 봤다 딘데지기 다 날이야 레바미 제가 딘데 간데 있났네 아니 파 디베까블이야 디레스 남서 랍도 중 수중 소야디 니릭 타바토야 돈다 숨구요르스 그 몬도 점직 토야 돈다 지고를 봤어 디인도 미유카가 차버렸어 칠로 섭다 지고 있네야 난그 삼리 켜서 배 카가 차버려 디인자 냠도 대답 요마래 냠도 리답 요마레스 제제 도스네 다 니주디 모트 쳐베인 말해
After now that now that Nanda had seen the wonders of the God realm, he then he did not then have any thoughts anymore to return home. You know, so now that he knew that the fruit of practicing ethical discipline would be, such a wondrous, marvelous rebirth as a god. Yeah. So then Nanda then decided to keep his vows properly. So from she said, Nanda really put then a lot of effort into keeping his precepts. Yeah. All for the sake of achieving a good rebirth as a god. So such an attitude is in fact an attitude of a person of small capacity, isn't it? A person of small capacity is someone who is looking to achieve high status, and that person is looking to avoid the bad migrations or the lower realms, isn't it, right? So anyway, Nanda kept his precepts purely with the hope of becoming a god in his next life. But of course, the Buddha was very skillful, isn't it? So the Buddha knew Nanda's motivation. So then one day, the Buddha told all the Sangha community in Sravasti to not make any connection with Nanda. So the Buddha told all the fully ordained monks there to not speak to Nanda, to not eat with him, to not stay with him, yeah, isn't it? So, of course, the monks obeyed the Buddha's instruction. So whenever Nanda would come around, they will all leave without talking to Nanda. So Nanda thought, okay, if my fellow monks are not going to talk to me, never mind. I shall look for my brother, Ananda. So, so when Nanda went to talk to Ananda, his brother, Ananda also stood up and left. So Nanda felt very sad. It is okay if the other monks do not talk to me, but now even my brother is not talking to me. So of course Nanda wondered why isn't it there? Why are these monks doing neglecting or avoiding him? So he asked his brother Ananda, and Ananda said, "We Sangha members are keeping our vows. We are practicing ethical discipline for the sake of achieving definite goodness, achieving liberation. Whereas you are keeping your vows only, for the sake of becoming a god in your next life. So, as such, we have different goals in life. Although we may look the same on the outside, but we are completely different on the inside."
למרות שבצורה חיצונית הם מאוד דומים אחד לשני, מבחינה חיצונית הם נראים כמו נזירים וכולי, עדיין מבפנים, מבחינה פנימית, הכוונה שלהם, השאיפה שלהם היא לגמרי שונה. הערכים שלהם, אפשר לומר, הם לא נפגשים. מה שננדה מעוניין בו, ננדה יפה התואר מעוניין בו, הוא רק לידה טובה בחיים הבאים, אבל מה שהננדה מעוניין בו זה טוב מוחלט. אז למרות שמבחינה חיצונית אולי הם נראים דומים, מבחינה פנימית הם שונים לגמרי, ולכן הוא אמר, מאחר ואנחנו לא מסכימים לגמרי, או לא תואמים לגמרי, אז אין שום דרך או סיבה שאנחנו נשב ביחד. זאת הייתה הדרך של הבודה, של התתגתה, לנסות לשנות את המטרה או את ההשקפה, את השאיפה של ננדה. לעשות.
다 신의 꾸인가오기 아는 이 만조 랍도 중에 수중 수에 미우트다 캐랑게 랍도 중에 수중 수에 미우니도 카가로도 스체제 안 딘데 인자 안 캐랑라야 긴둔남게 땀메마 아니 지 소뇽도 롱세 냠도 세미사야 어떻게 니도 디레스체네 모두 나인도 오 당에 삼노티 디스지 노르고요 임반다 다 디신시벌야 아니 지 디 삼노티 양타바 용야지 돈달래 다 컨디시 슈고도 삼네 아니 체도 있냐네 아니 디시시부 군들이야 단단데 가오짜르제 아니 최지 수로나스 네 삼노를 뱀이 최지 수로나스 가오가지고 단 너도 쪼치는 숨바래 임바래 간달 가오가지고 너 니나라야 아니 아르투글루주 지에 용기요래라 치시기 루주지에 용기요래 아니 केवल केवल लेंदांग को किसी की रुचि युंगी और ताती चीता राचिन दावाई ना दुनिया दंबती मचेची ना ध्यान दावे की दुनिया दंब खोए की चीता तंदंदी चुगी समझे और ता खोआ खोरतांग के रुंबती इन्हें ची दुनिया की फुंगो 어떻게 दी चुगी समझे तन्ने को ने की चीतें ता चुगी समझे नुचु नी ये बनांगे ता चुगी समझे ची 코와 레야 지 겨와 유인의 독스 로당을 봐도 독스 망고치 트네 아니 된다와디 유 매발의 중앙마인 봐 유카를 때는 중국에 알았으나 아니 영무 배상한게 레사네 아니 용구여다 봐 어다 텔레 트베 토토텔라 아니 람기 담바 응원도 제베 보네 아니 리부 고베다 봐 응원도 지야지 이해다 봐 어떻게 고운간 죽은 독이 그래서 닝도시 슈베이나 디체네 아니 공기 너도 냠수 lambe thone ene tandadi chung gaushunare ze gaushunare nandagi oda ji dambashi pabe dambashi ane kuni nyomon chogi gyunre namjan chogi tap jung otigi tigi de ane luyula sharbe thone ane ta ji nginjungida lam 속람내 체제 ane jolamje 통람제 공람제 ane 밀로람 라좀 주고 구제텔이야 엉몬도 쳐봐 어떤지 임바래
אז בעצם מה ש...
So Ananda explained to Nanda that was the reason why the fellow monks were not talking to him and were not eating with him. Then Nanda realized, oh, I see. So there's really something wrong with my motivation here, with my attitude here. So I must consult the Buddha. I must ask the Buddha how I can change my attitude. So he requested the Buddha for teaching in order to help him to change his motivation and his attitude. And as a result of this request, the Buddha taught the sutra, which is called Nanda's Sutra on Entering the Womb. So in this sutra, you will find the Buddha's explanation about the intermediate state and about the birth process and so forth. So in essence, if you look at the point of the sutra, it is an introduction to true suffering. It shows, explains the process in which the sentient beings circle in cyclic existence. And cyclic existence is not something that comes about without a cause. Rather, motivated by the afflictions, one accumulates karma, and then that karma causes us sentient beings to circle in cyclic existence. And if we want to get out of cyclic existence, then we have to practice or actualize the true path on the basis of which then we can achieve true cessation. So this is the essence of the point of the teaching, isn't it, right? So then Nanda put the teachings into practice, and then he became an arhat, isn't it, right? So he realized the cause and effect relationship between true origins and true suffering. True origins, karma, afflictions, and karma is that which gives rise to true suffering. And he realized that in dependence on the method, true path, one will be able to achieve true cessation, which is that which arises from that method, isn't it? So he developed a renunciation, and then he entered into the path of accumulation, and then he proceeded on to the path of preparation, the path of seeing, the path of no more meditation, and finally then he achieved the path of no more learning. He became a full destroyer, an arhat.
זה בעצם הסוטרה הזאת שנומדה לננדה שעוסקת בכניסה לרחם היא זיקקה עבור ננדה את המהות של ארבע אמיתות שהן ארבע אמיתות עבור המתרגלים הנאצלים. זאת אומרת ארבע אמיתות, מתוך ארבע אמיתות יש את שתי אמיתות שהן קשורות במחלקה של הדברים שהם לגמרי אוכרים, לגמרי אחורים, אלה שתי האמיתות הראשונות, ואת שתי האמיתות הנוספות הם את הדרך או דרכים אמיתיות והיפסקויות אמיתיות שהן כרוכות במחלקה של הדברים שהם לגמרי טהורים. וכשאבו נתן את ההסבר הזה לננדה, אז כל ההסבר הזה הופיע כפי שהוא, בתודעתו של ננדה, זה אומר שהוא הצליח להבין את מה שהבודה לימד אותו, ובתלות זה הוא פיתח את הנחישות להיחלץ ממעגלי הקיום, הוא פיתח את הנחישות להיחלץ, הוא נכנס לדרך הראשונה שנקראת דרך הצבירה, לדרך השנייה שנקראת דרך ההכנה, לדרך הראייה, לדרך המדיטציה, ובסופו של דבר הוא הגשים את הדרך שלא דורשת אימון נוסף, זה אומר שהוא על סמך זה הגשים את מצב הארהט. נסולה.
대단데 다가스게 룽데 직슈나 단단데 다좀 사갈해 사지 다좀 사갈하스니 때 자가기 상게 좀 된데 셰슈가기 너무 지레다 다좀 사갈라 그래서 다 셰슈가 윈도 커버래 대야 백까지 같은 거 슈트 마스다 다 간다 상게 좀 된데 셰슈가 그러면도 어떻게 상게 좀 된데 셰슈가 그러면도 다좀 사갈해 아니 누가 메도 팅제세 디난텔라 디네 삼된 로베 레다기 룰라 님볼랑 버차스 무미 견점 기초베 삼반남이 미차오스 디네지기 직제지 애니 경고 여이신노 야양 룽데나제 디난게와 디 직디 누바쳐도와 다 치로고 둘로 세보큰 소뇽다 페 자제 류주체바 다 찍어차기 여르스 레디 나로그 삼류 캡수티 땅문에 타내기 로버트선 공화삼대 딘디지기 도선 공수물이야 전제 간달 몬도 장마인바 니리 두비야기 탑리야 매고야지 디레스 알레코라 럽드 중세야 코라야 아니 쳇디당 코베 덴데 딱 겨와체면 쳇디기 사야 통하지 이 매고야가 ton다 아니 깨워침을 하다 미 공부토야 어딘데지기 돈다라 제베이나 지교구 추dum다 링명구 추dum 생이지마도 소소탑에 dom봉문에 깨야기 고급지 매대봐 소소탑에 dom봉문에 깨야지 돈다라 코알라 이중에 민중기 삼바단 덴베 토네 dom발랭고 위여봐 디치도 로버트 섬다 봉어삼대는 전국이 위여봐 딘데디 단데 식제티나 숨도와 삼대 로베 레다기 룰라 님볼랑을 차스 물미 견점 기초베 삼반남이야 미차오스 삼대스도 공화삼대 로베스도 로버트선 디니디 티나도가 토선 검수 야마테베 토네 아니 지다 니리 타바두야 타비야 베고그레스 어디단데 좀 가고 로주티기 문내 자네 코나 딘데지기 다 지메지신지 인당 추제베 이미 미시 간다 콩글로 주티 토네 나란솔이 랍자 지 랍도 중하다 버지나 랍자 딘데지 다 내야 여데바 지티다 디 로주티 토네 에네 거야요 버지 도와
Then by the way, there's this Arhat Sahala, sounded like that. Okay. Anyway, Rinpoche said he doesn't think that this Arhat Sahala, he didn't think that he didn't think that he existed at the time of, when the Buddha was around. But anyway, there's this Arhat, and there is a verse that is attributed to him, and this verse is has been cited by His Holiness many a times in the past. Yeah, and the essence of the verse is like this. Yeah, so do not be content with just getting ordained. Do not be content with just shaving your head and putting on the robes. Yeah, isn't it? But rather, the ordained should strive in training, and the training here refers to hearing and studying the teaching, and then analyzing and reflecting on the teachings, and also to practice meditation, to develop meditative stabilization. And all of this should be done not for this life's happiness, neither should it be done for future life happiness, but rather the motivation for becoming an ordained and for and the motivation behind one's hearing, reflection, and meditation should be that of achieving the definite goodness. Yeah. So it is otherwise, then one may look kind of different on the outside, but on the inside, if the attitude is not that of seeking a definite goodness, then one is kind of the same as everybody else, isn't it? So it is said that the vows of the vows of the ordained are only imprinted on the mental continuum. You only receive the vows if they are taken with the motivation to achieve definiteness, to achieve liberation from cyclic existence at the very least, isn't it? Because it is possible that there are people who take vows for the sake of this life, for in order to get shelter or food, or people who take vows with the motivation of seeking a good rebirth, So they said that the vows of ordination, the actual vows of ordination, may not be generated in the mental continuum of such people. So this is, I think, very good advice for us, and in particular for the ordained. Yeah.
המטרה המהותית בלקיחת נדר שכזה היא להשתמש בבסיס של נדר הזה כדי שנוכל לתרגל את האימונים, כדי שנוכל להפסיק, להכחיד את הדברים שאנחנו רוצים להיפטר מהם, ובתלות בזה נוכל בעצמנו להגשים את מצב החירות.
다텔라 가옹만주기 아니 노티 상계 좀 된데 녀를 슈딘 잡에 까비라 아니 단데 가오탕 아니 코르긴딩 솔이야 아니 디시시베 다 숨거지 레도와 아니 코랑기 디 최드 숨로체스 좀 된데 대신도 터바 차로스네 가오기야 근데 땅나 녀녀 되고도 숨줘도 나로나스 제제 다 간다 지단 동에 되면 거치 레디 디나네 아니 기시 치시 벌시 걸 하든 아니 겨울에 난거 걸 나도 주당 걸 아니 파트 심젠데 칸데 요메 거티 다 페이지 노초 슝나네 단디 노티 다 게슈지 차기요 임바레 오 텔라 데네 다 페나 푸순 초바스 다 녜랭기 주 현지 체계 유단 겐스 니임브레 다 녜랭기 주 가르르스나 베나 미치를 겨울에 임바이나 코랑기 다 딘디라 주인 남 펜지글레 어디 바자 남식이 등도 거샤버다 녜레레 다디 현지 체계 딜라 아니 셀렌세베 쇠답제 아니 지금 마상하면 버지 다 겨울에 뭐고 딜레이 참고야지 유기래라 겨울엔세 유 파마다부터야 참고야지 윤그르바 어 딘데 인두 다 유단께 푸순 써가지고 그래스 딜레야이는 또 가오마 주고 도티나나 두가 바르드 딘도와 데다테스 파마니아 차베셈 중앙 줄 파마드 풍고양 우도 줄지 깨베네 용수 처벌 제강 파마데다 주중아 칠 규지 두직도 중앙마 줄담 수수르라 내놈 뎀버 주나야 나도 주고 미유로스 다 디등사 친리박은 도당단 tum부 시다래 밤에 제 마냐바지 임바체 어 딘디지 임바이나 람상 네바젠도 델리야 날 차베 차바 여르베스 제제 집에이나 딜 차바 매데버지 날 차 시게레 날 마차바야 시그레사지 다 콜이야 지 겐수마
רימפוצ'ה כפה עבורי, אני טועה אם הוא כפה גם עבורכם.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, it seemed the video is frozen.
Yeah, Rinpoche might have lost connection.
Just give it a minute.
All right. All right. Disconnected, I reckon. So I suggest that maybe in the meantime, until Rinpoche's connection is set up again, maybe we can translate what Rinpoche said so far.
Good idea. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
So the Buddha taught this sutra, Nanda's sutra, on entering the womb to Nanda and to the community of Sangha in Shravasti. And in the beginning of the sutra, it is recorded that Nanda said, "Yes, I will listen to this teaching. I have interest in this teaching." In general, the sutra is talking about true suffering. And in particular, you'll find the Buddha's explanation on the death existence, the death state, the birth state, and the intermediate state. So you could say that from the sutra side, this sutra has the most extensive coverage on these topics, and in particular on the topic of the intermediate stage. So, and as you know, in order to take rebirth to appropriate the aggregates in cyclic existence, there must be the substantial cause and the cooperative conditions. So, as for the substantial causes, as you may already know, out of the 12 links, there is the link of compositional activity or the link of formative action, which is essentially the projecting karma, isn't it? So when projecting karma is accumulated, an impression, a seed is left on the third link, the link of consciousness. But in order for this seed to ripen, there must be the cooperative conditions. That's where you have the link of craving and the link of grasping. The link of craving and link of grasping and nourishes, activates that previously accumulated seed of projecting karma, isn't it? Right? So, but there are also conditions in order to take rebirth as a specific being in with a specific body and mind in cyclic existence. There are conditions that must also be present in the parents. For example, it is said that the egg and the sperm of one's future parents must be functioning. It cannot be. They must not have deteriorated, isn't it? And this explanation in the sutra is very much concordant with what you've with modern day science, isn't it? So anyway, there's this passage in the sutra that goes like this: if the father and mother have generated minds of sexual desire, if this coincides with the fertile stage of the menstrual cycle, if the aggregates of the intermediate being are present, if they possess few of the above faults, and if there exists the condition of karma, then the intermediate being will enter the womb.
אני מבקש לשיעור הזה כיאות, והבאגאוואן אמר לננדה הנכבד, ננדה, הגוף ניטל עם גורמים ותנאים מושלמים נאספים בשלמות. גורמים ותנאים מושלמים נאספים בשלמות, זה מה שדיברנו עליו עכשיו, זה הגורם הממשי או הגורם החומרי והתנאים המסייעים. אז אם גורמים ותנאים מושלמים נאספים בשלמות, כאשר בעלי תודעה חפצים בכניסה לרחם, אז הגוף ניטל. אבל אם הגורמים והתנאים הם לא מושלמים, לא נשלמים, הגוף אינו ניטל. נשאל את עצמנו מה זה חוסר בתנאים, מה המצב שבו התנאים לא מושלמים, לדוגמה, אם אין תשוקה בתודעתם של ההורים וכולי.
Bardo 생기지 남시지 엔 밤에 제텔이야 다 슈다마 슈지리야 겨울엔 생기지 날 차다마자 생기지 텔이야 되게 여대버지디 지다 무슨 Bardo 생긴게 민기 타녀데 딩상 체리부터 저 딩두 멤버도 저기 럽기도 말했대 이나야 간다 밤에 제 잠시 당금에 대봐 텔이야 괜신다지 고고여버대 다 코란제 무슨 체도 다 거기 버도 먹어 무슨 게 다제 전에 녀트야지 여대버지 다 된다와데 지 제도조 겸해버지 용고여버대 양 가운간 주고 너희나 숨어도와 파마트 홍보양 응원도 교진 깨외내 용수 초월 제강 파마테라가 늦은같이 규지 뒤지도 중앙마 교동 수술을 내는데 뭐 주나야 나도 주고 민주로 가대 마이응알 룽다 치바다 백엔다 차기 냐오는 넘버 줄동 참시에 강함 맨기 강함 우내다와 정매 깨바다 다와 너무 카다와 신대 식바신 소거 두밤 신대 소신 더블 두밤 신대 때에 카더블 두밤 신로 더블 교함 바더블 다 교함 맨로 키와 줄담 나기 난 내기 타마께바 더블 줄담 kujuda 타 만도 자지 기지 점도야 누구도 믿어버 교담 다 둘도 잡을 교담 나기 다 드리스레 다 간다 나기 견기 녀바 망부지 애니 여바 있나야 받으심전데 텔레 쇼바 있나야 아니 지겨월 기시기 풍고디 애니 야투마투야 어딘데 요레스제 뒤저기 내게 나발 뭐 망부시 디신시베 숨고도 왔다 당 멤버 지금 뭐네 시아바이나 애니 두졸이야 아니 페이지 세브시라이 등구 이기를 했음도 tum부 연구 이기를 했음도
So besides so early on besides having the substantial cause and the cooperative condition from the side of the person who is taking rebirth, there must be the conditions, favorable conditions from the side of the parents as well. So I mentioned earlier about the substance. So basically, both the egg and the sperm of the parents must not be faulty. Number two, the intermediate state being must be present. Of course, the modern day scientists will not do not talk about intermediate state being taking rebirth, but it is clear that if you were to ask the scientists, they will say that just because they will say that conception or does not necessarily take place even if the egg and the sperm were to meet. Yeah. So this is something they will say. Okay. So from our side, we say that there must be the presence of the intermediate state being who is going to take a rebirth. Number three, the mother's womb must be free from faults. Yeah. So in the sutra, it is said that, for example, the mother's womb must be free from the faults of its center being like the shape of a barley seed, being free from the fault of being free from the fault of its center being shaped like an ant's waist or a camel's mouth, and it must not be obstructed by wind, by bow or phlegm, and so forth. So, and Rinpoche said he thinks that perhaps now if you were to, consult or discuss with a gynecologist or basically a doctor, about our presentation, You probably have something similar to say.
הברדו, מי שנמצא בברדו והוא חפץ להיוולד, חפץ להיכנס לרחם, הוא גם צריך להיות חלק מהתהליך, הוא גם צריך להיות שם. אבל מעבר לזה, הסוטרה גם אומרת שגם אם ההורים חפצים בלידה וגם אם המצב הברדו
quite many of the passages from this sutra is cited and translated in this book called the Science and Philosophy Volume 1. Science and Philosophy Volume 1.
פה נאמר בסוטרה הזאת, נאמר שהכניסה לרחם לא מתרחשת מושפעת קשות או מושפעת חלקית על ידי מצבים כמו רוח או מה שנקרא באנגלית wind, על ידי לחה או מרה. עכשיו ברפואה הטיבטית יש את שלושת האלמנטים האלה שנמצאים בגוף, וחוסר איזון בין האלמנטים האלה גורמים למצב פיזי מסוים. אז הכניסה לרחם לא, שלושת האלמנטים האלה הם של רוח ולחה או ריר ומרה, אז הכניסה לרחם לא מתרחשת אם הם מושפעת קשות או חלקית על ידי רוח, לחה או מרה. אבל מעבר לזה גם אם יש בעיות במחזור החודשי, בביוץ או במחזור החודשי, או שהיא עוברת איזשהו טיפול רפואי והמצב הרפואי שלה, הטיפול משפיע על הלידה, או שיש בעיות מסוימות או פגמים מסוימים ברחם. עכשיו בדרך שבה זה מתואר בסוטרה הזאת, נאמר שאו שמרכז הרחם הוא נראה כמו זרע של שעורה, או כמו מותניים של נמלה, או כמו פה של גמל, או תנאים רציניים, חמורים אחרים, שהם נקראים כמו חישור של מרכבה, או כמו השאסי, הציר המרכזי של המרכבה, או כמו הפתח המרכזי של המרכבה, איך זה נראה, אני לא בדיוק בטוח. גם אם הרחם הזה נראה כמו עלה, אם הוא מסובב או מפותל, כמו קנה, אם בתוך הרחם מתפתח משהו שדומה לזרע של שעורה, אם למרות שיש טפטוף רב של נוזלי הרבייה, של דם, ביצית, הם לא מסוגלים להישאר יותר מרגע קט, אם הם לא נשארים, אם הם זולגים למטה, אם צוואר הרחם הוא מחוספס או מצולק, אם הוא עבה, הוא קשיח, או שהחלק העליון או התחתון הוא רחב או מורבט וכולי, אם הוא יתרחב, אם יש נפילת רחם וכולי, אם הוא גבוה או נמוך, קצר וצר, או שהוא נפגע על ידי מגוון שונה ומשונה של מחלות, בכל המצבים האלה, אם יש פגם מסוים רפואי ברחם האם, זה אומר שגם אם מצב הביניים כן נכנס לתוך הרחם, עדיין הגוף לא יתפתח. אז זה מה שנאמר בסוטרה, אבל כמובן שאם נדבר עם מישהו שמבין שיכול לתת לנו הסבר מנקודת המבט של מדע הרפואה, אז כמובן שההסבר יהיה מאוד מדויק ומאוד מפורט. לעשו להרים בצ'י.
다트네 바르두스 셈젠테당 파마니 보티 다 양 파마니 지 소놈 쳐 추리 줌바 다간다 리토아로지 다 줌바티다 티기 다 계주 지기 더네 양지 개쳐서 제우사로 뽐보사로 오실렌사로 신지사로 다 두치니 양지 토름기 지 미나타체 다 딘데지나 추리 줌바사지 다 딘데지기 양 소놈 체중고 터네 개발침바이나 바르투스임젠티 파마티기 나게남이야 유튜브 매우지 다 파마니다 바르투스임젠티 소놈 냠바지 임바이나야 야 딘데지 레기 드바 믹세 매바이나 야 파마니기 감겨 매바다 지 바르투스임젠 유튜브야지 여바이나야 바도와디 텔리아 जो मुथु याची कारण लेग जॉब में दे बची वो ता तिंडे इंदु ता छागी के ओ जी लेग जॉब यो बा सोनम न्याबा तेने 파마니 기 룰리 당 감ले के में बा वो तिंडे गोरेस ने वो तिंडे सुंग दुआ ता तिंडे थोला एने भदोती एने माइंगा दिया शुचु रिंबतला एने 불게야로 지인바이나 and malachashi paladama and pomolagaina and palachashi maldaya or tindejigi susu tunasanamindu or tindejigi shamanjigi tone nyomungu shamanjigi tone and maimadu and jugres tak tuzo manzita tishibe lungla ten and rogoramato chigi ribe dutuachi mindoa that the shinko yug church redwa or Dako 인규 대한래 가르르스나 코와 친구들이 너세 샤베 코베 저를 징스 알레도 뭐 세디네 껴 치말이야 치월롱도 쳐베 깔래야 아니 셀랭기 쇠 때문에 아니 시베레스 루제레사네 껴 치말이야 다 남이기 풍고 눈에지기 돌아 로고도 되네 세디기 풍고디 가 껴 치메 풍고디 마투 디 바살라텔라 ene ji da shindu tawe da tawe da ji suchengi chöl tube ene dandeti da bardo semjenji o kodu ti barade yuguduwa o tindegi da tawe suchengi ji bardo semjenti maingadu shugoteya kewe siba nyomo jensen Kisi to Ninza Javate, Yomonchi Tone, and Jugu Yoimbare, and that Zozo Dacha Imbare, or Dacha won't Jugu Yoimbare. Kabrish Pal down, Mal Dawson, Shatanchis, Yunguyo Imbare, Rete, Danyagi, Zawa the Carlson, she Sebe Chigi Imbare, and Shatankini, Tarchinches, Sebe Zawa Jenny, and Tigi, Shatanki Tarchimachigi Yores. Tete rare maranzo tanda nyomo tusu she yundu maranzo dala dang saji yungor shadan ke saji ngorwa dala shadan ke ala ngel ya dala chaba dag ngel chaba saji dag kol chaba sanji chaba jingmo rogo dowa tende chaba jigi loti chizang shukchawa di chögi di mindu chotela damelo shukchaji yongdeaji tende chaba loti mebeina shadan dia chi can chiba chigan imayna ranglia rangi lu chi lu longju and kor ota tuzu yonsu zobalia chabelo shukchenji mebina tela tene timindu cho chumotela damelo and tesam the page ke gutseme de bajuji o dustua o shadangine tarchinche sa tindesi imada o tinde indu kisi dingin ja jabe kaptela ya and nyomu ko nalame and in the Javares. No.
Next. So you have the condition of the non-faulty egg and sperm, the presence of the intermediate state being waiting to take rebirth. The womb of the mother must be free from faults. And number 4. If if there's a kind of a big disparity in terms of the strength of merit, of the parents and the intermediate state being, and then the intermediate state being may not be able to enter the womb. So, for example, if the mother or if the parents are of persons of great merit. For example, they are the rulers of a country, or they are ministers, or they are officials, or they are very powerful people. No? So, of course, these are the results of having a lot of merit. So, if the intermediate state beings' level of merit is not concordant, or not roughly equivalent, of to the parents, then he or she will not be able to enter into the womb. Yeah. And even in the case where the level of merit is kind of pretty much the same, however, if there is no karmic connection between the intermediate state being and the parents, the intermediate state being will not be able to enter the womb as well. So in short, we have these 4 conditions, right? The substance of the father and mother, the womb, the condition of the womb of the mother, then the presence of the intermediate state being, and also the karmic connection and the level of merit here. So then it is said that a person who is born, the intermediate state being, if it is to be reborn as a female, it desires the father. And if the intermediate state being is to be reborn as a female, it desires the father. Right? So you see the role of afflictions. The role of affliction. So sometimes it is said that the intermediate state being also take rebirth due to hatred. So there's an explanation behind that. Yeah? So whatever the case, even the entry into the womb is a result, is conditioned by afflictions. So in general, we say that craving and grasping is that which binds us to cyclic existence, isn't it? So at the time of death, there's the link of craving and grasping, which motivates the accumulation of the actualizing karma, and then one dies, and then one enters the intermediate state, isn't it? And one becomes an intermediate state being before going on to the next rebirth. So it is said that the intermediate state being possesses a very subtle kind of form, possesses very subtle form. But of course, this is an extremely hidden phenomenon, isn't it? We can only talk about the existence of such a state, based on scriptural authority. Isn't it? So, you see, in general, in order to move from one life to another, craving and grasping, which are essentially of derivatives or forms of attachment, which is an affliction, it plays a big role. But also, at the time when the intermediate state being is about to take rebirth, is about to take rebirth, let's say in this case as a human being, isn't it? If it is going to be born as a male, it has a desire for the mother. If it is going to be born as a female, it has desire for the father. So there is attachment involved, but even if or if hatred is manifest, hatred arises primarily due to attachment in the first place. The stronger the attachment, the stronger an aversion we will have, isn't it? We can tell this from our own experience, isn't it? So you may have different objects of attachment or hatred, isn't it? It could be the body, it could be one's possessions or one's loved ones, So why do we get upset when we are harmed, or when our loved ones or when our possessions are harmed? It's because we have strong attachment to these things, isn't it? So the stronger the attachment, the stronger the aversion, right? So the point here is whether it is whether at the time of entry in the womb, whether we are talking about attachment or hatred. Essentially, we are talking about afflictions, isn't it? Right? Afflictions play or afflictive emotions play such a big part, in samsaric life. Yeah.
אז כמובן שדיברנו לפני כן על שתי האפשרויות האלה, להיוולד בתור זכר או להיוולד בתור נקבה, להיוולד בתור בן או להיוולד בתור בת, ואמרנו שאם יש לדוגמה תשוקה לאם או שנאה לאב, או תשוקה לאב או שנאה לאם, אז כמובן שיש גם שנאה או כעס שמתואר בתהליך הזה, אבל בעצם הכעס או השנאה היא מבוססת על תשוקה. השורש של הכעס או של השנאה אפשר לומר שזה תשוקה. במובן הזה שכשאנחנו מסתכלים על היחסים, הדרך שבה אנחנו מתייחסים לאלה שסביבנו, יש את אלה שהם קרובים לליבנו, החברים, בני משפחה וכו', ואנחנו רואים אותם עם תשוקה, עם השתוקקות, ואלה שהם אויבינו, אנחנו חשים עליהם כעס או שנאה. עכשיו, השנאה היא עולה בתלות בתשוקה, במובן הזה שככל שהתשוקה שלנו לאלה שקרובים לליבנו היא תהיה גדולה יותר, ככה גם השנאה שלנו לאויבינו תהיה גדולה יותר. יכול להיות שמבחינה חיצונית הסיטואציה, המצב יהיה בדיוק אותו מצב, אבל אם לא תהיה תשוקה חזקה לאלה שקרובים לליבנו, אז גם הכעס שיעלה בנו, או השנאה שתעלה בנו, בתלות בגורם חיצוני מסוים, היא לא תהיה כל כך גדולה. זה אומר שבעצם כשאנחנו מסתכלים על הכניסה לרחם, רגע ההפריה והחיבור, הקישור בין החיים האלה למצב הביניים או ללידה הבאה, התהליך הזה הוא מבוסס על תשוקה.
Thank you, Rinpoche, and thank you to all the interpreters. We will now have a short break of half an hour. So you can stay on the Zoom meeting or come back in half an hour.
Come back.
Just,